Welcome back to Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn. Last time, we fought Duke Culbert's army when he tried to kill Alincia when she was unarmed, and yeah, he's pretty much already cemented himself as one of the worst people in this game. But then, things changed. The Apostle has returned, and that means this war is going to get even more complicated. You'd think that'd mean things would be over, right? But the map screen's going to tell us otherwise.
Apostle Soniki arrives without warning at the Central Army's main camp in Crimea. With a strength born of conviction, she exposes the Senator's vile plot to undermine and usurp her. Valtome counterattacks with a claim crafted by the Senate that the Apostle is a fraud who, along with her Prime Minister, Sephiroth, is attempting to deceive all of Benyan and lead them away from the goddess's graces. To the citizens of Benyan, the senators are chosen by the goddess and are worthy of the same respect given to the Apostle. As for the Apostle, her image is tarnished when the Senate imprisons Prime Minister Sephiroth in her name. An ever-growing number of Benyan citizens are willing to believe the senators' claim that the Apostle is an agent of evil trying to deceive them. So it is that the Central Army is divided. One camp believes in the Apostle, and the other supports the Senate. This new turmoil fans the flames of chaos into a mighty conflagration burning across Delius.
Chapter 11.
This is for a just cause.
So we went from Gallia attacking Bednion out of anger as to finding out the truth of the Serenades massacre, to the situation turning against us and Bednion using it as an excuse to try and exterminate the Laguz entirely, to Bednion going into a civil war. Yeah, if you thought the Mad King's War was crazy, this war is so much more insane. So, this big speech by Soniki here has quite a lot of changes in the extended script, so I'm going to go over them as best as I can. It's not significantly different, but there's a lot of little extra lines for flavour that were lost in this version. So, we have a true meeting of rulers this time, both Bjork and Laguz. So it seems like Soniki wasn't actually captured, just driven out of her country. I feel like, due to the way that Segun reacted to Zelgius in 3.5, that she probably was taken hostage at some point, but the Holy Guard were able to rescue her, and that's how she's able to be here today. So, in the extended script, Kanegas actually gets a line here and talks about how we Laguz don't need formalities, so let's just get right to the points. So this is mostly the same as what's said in the extended script, but the extended script doesn't directly mention receiving word of the senators being responsible of framing the Herons for the massacre. That's just inferred from everything else she's saying. Also in the extended script, Soniki mentions during this line that in addition to wanting to investigate and prosecute the senators, she was also thinking of offering compensation to the Kingdom of Serenades as an apology. It's actually kind of unfortunate that that detail was lost in this version of the script. So this part is exactly the same in both versions of the script, with one exception. In this script, she says, I had no idea they would stoop to such deplorable acts. In the extended script, she says, I had no idea that men of the goddess would stoop to such deplorable acts. It adds in a little bit more flavour of Bednion being a theocracy. Speaking of that, in the previous chapter, when Sanaki addresses Valtome and explains to the army the reason why she's there, in the extended script she also basically accuses Valtome of going against the will of the goddess, which is really harsh. So Tibarn's line is a bit longer in the extended script. After he says, "What you told us confirms what we already guessed," Tibarn says something that I find really interesting, and again, I don't like this was cut from this version. He actually speculates that the reason why the Senators made their move now, and the reason why they're directly going against the Apostle and trying to stir up anti-Apostle resentment, is because Sanaki in the previous game got mixed up in the whole issue with Serene's Forest, and offered a direct apology to the Herons. In other words, all of this internal turmoil that's going on in Bednion, and the Senators finally getting more bold in moving against Sanaki, all of it's a direct consequence of what Sanaki did in Serene's Forest in the last game. And I love that connection there, and I'm, again, annoyed that this was lost in this version of the scripts. Tibarn also says that Sanaki should learn to keep her underlings under a tighter leash from now on. And this speech is pretty much the exact same. In fact, everything else in this scene is pretty much the exact same as it is in the extended script. So now it's not just a Laguz alliance, it's a Laguz and Bjork alliance with Sanaki. However, Kanagas is going to use this opportunity to do a little political maneuvering here. Sanaki was planning on doing the emancipation thing anyway, so she's probably going to agree to that demand. This is sounding like a total war treaty now. So yes, everything that Kanagas said there is exactly the same in the extended script. And this detail is also in the extended script. Tibarn wants to join this cause only if Sanaki promises to return Serene's Forest back to its rightful owners. In the extended script, Rayson says that they can finally go back to the place where their ancestors' souls are at rest, so it's a little more poignant in that version. Also, Rayson has a little bit of extra dialogue in the extended script where he talks about, in fact, this is also a detail that I'm annoyed at being removed. He says that since his father is bedridden, he serves as a representative for Serene, so he's agreeing to the treaty on his father's behalf. So now it's pretty much everyone against the Senate, and I think you're seeing a problem here. There's one country that isn't here. It's kind of weird how the scene just abruptly cuts out right there. This scene is also slightly different in the extended script. Yeah, we're a small unit, but most of us are third tier by now, so they don't stand a chance. I love this line. I just love how Sanaki just says this so bluntly. So unfortunately, we won't be getting direct help from Zelgius. In the extended script, both Ranulf and I think Joffrey even comes in, and they directly mention that they have 3,000 soldiers from Gallia, and I believe 5,000 elite knights from Crimea. So, I like how they're mentioning the exact numbers there. That is true. And yeah, it's a good thing we solved the whole issue with Serene's Forest in the last game, otherwise Ike wouldn't have the respect of Serene's and Phoenicis, and probably not Sanaki either. So, there's an extra little funny bit in the extended script that I'm annoyed at being cut. Sanaki says, after the first part of this line, Sanaki says, do you feel like you're not worthy? I could make you a noble again, and then Ike's like, no, please don't do that. I actually like this translation choice, though. In the Japanese version, which is why I'm reading for the extended script, it's just, damn it. But I kind of like the way they localize that. So, here we are at the base, but this base is actually very special. So, if we go into items, and you won't be able to hear this, but my console is going to be whirring a lot because there's going to be a lot of loading to do. So, we now have a lot more characters. From this point on, the Crimean Knights and the Grail Mercenaries are officially merged. In fact, we now have a new army name. We are the Apostles' Army. Hasn't changed Ike's authority stars, though. But the Apostles' Army is a merger of the Grail Mercenaries and the Crimean Knights. Not only do we have all of the Crimean Knights characters, apart from Joffrey, so that's part of why I didn't want Joffrey to hold on to any valuable items in the last chapter, but also, our convoys are merged. So everything that was in the convoy for the Crimean Royal Knights is now in the convoy for the Grail Mercenaries. Hey, it's Ludwig's Tomahawk. You can probably give that to Har or someone like that. So, yeah, and also, that's Elincia. Yeah, these are both Elincias, which is pretty nice too. And the Master Crown from the Crimean Knights as well. So, our convoys are merged, and also, our bonus experience pools are merged. So, I said we'd be getting a huge ton of bonus experience soon. Yeah, holy crap, we have a lot of bonus experience. With this in perspective, I can actually cap Ranulf right now if I really wanted to. I'm not going to do that, but I might actually bonus experience a lot of people up. But before I do that, I'm going to go to info first. We have a few conversations to get through. So Sanaki is not done with Ike, and in fact she's still not done with Ike even after this base conversation. She has something else to give him, but we'll see that later. Also, that conversation's great. So another Master Crown. In the Japanese version, that means you can have a maximum of 3 third tiers at this point, including the Master Crown from the Crimean Knights, so like I said, the English version is considerably easier due to removing the limit on third tiering people. So you get a Master Crown. And now Sigoon. This is actually a pretty useful conversation for us. And yeah, that's some pretty nice dialogue from Sigoon as well. Ike has certainly grown since then. 20,000 gold! Now, if you don't use the Ileana the Delivery Girl trick, this is about the point where the Grail Mercenaries finally stop having money problems. Also, we have this conversation. A pair that I wish interacted more in the last game. In fact, I wish Kieran had more dialogue. I know that I keep saying this, but I still find it really bizarre that Kieran didn't get any base conversations at all in the entire time we returned to Crimea in Path of Radiance, which just, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And we still have this one-sided rivalry going on. Now I think about it, this actually reminds me a little bit of Kakashi and Might Guy, except not ninjas. Although the Red and Green Knights would become ninjas later on. It's funny how different these two are, but Oscar still considers Kieran a good friend. And he kind of tries to humor the whole rival thing as well. So I've said many times that Imbue is far superior to Renewal in this game, so having an extra Imbue scroll is going to be very useful. And this is literally true, by the way. Just check Kieran's supports with Rice in the last game. Yeah, Oscar knows just what to say to make Kieran accept this. Living only for the battlefield and ham. That's basically Kieran. So we get the Imbue Scroll, which I now have to convoy because Kieran's inventory is full. I guess while I'm here, I can probably see, yeah, I can increase Icon Soren support. Not nearly the true power of Double Earth support. Icon Oscar A is probably better, but this is still decent. And now that I've got this, we have, well, unless I erase this, we've locked in one of the special conversations towards the end of the game, which I should mention requires a transferred Icon Soren A from Path of Radiance, so it's actually kind of difficult to get, especially these days due to Path of Radiance being so rare. As for everyone else, I don't think anyone else can rank up their supports. Danved can... Marsha seems to have a lot of support options within the Crimean Knights. Well, actually just Danved and Astrid. Is there anyone... Oh, Heather actually has quite a few people she can support. But yeah, it doesn't really look like I can do much in the way of supports there. So let's go to the market and see what they have in bargains. Not much. More Olivigrass. It's weird they give you so much of this despite you only having 3 Lagoon... Well, you have left more to... Actually... It's kind of funny that I only counted, 3 good Lagoos and Raisin. Yeah. What was that? There are 2 other Lagoos that join in 3-4? Anyway. So, they are selling Thoron now? Extremely powerful lightning magic. 9 mites. Yeah, that's powerful. That's really powerful. I don't think I have anyone who can use that at this point, because Soren... Let's see... Yeah, he's only an A in Thunder and nowhere close to getting to an S, so, yeah, unfortunately, you can't use Thoron, which is a shame, because it does look pretty cool in this one, and I don't think there's anyone else I have who can use it either, so... No real reason to buy that, unfortunately. I mean, Soren might be able to use it later, but by the time I have access to it, and we still can't buy Arc Tome, so we're stuck with these. I was about to say El Thunder might be good on Soren, then I realized, oh wait, Thunder sucks in this game. I could either get a Silver Axe or... You know what? I think I'll get a Steel Poleaxe for Gatry. In fact, I might get 2 more of these. Actually, I just realized I probably don't need to buy a lot of these because I have Kieran. And Kieran, I probably won't be using him from now on. So let's go ahead and trade some of his stuff over to... Don't think Gatry needs the Iron Lance anymore, so let's go ahead and trade a Steel Poleaxe over... I might as well trade the Killer Axe over too, but I think I might trade that Killer Axe to Har. Har has that Steel Poleaxe. Har doesn't even need a Javelin at this point. And I guess he can swap out the Hand Axe for a fresh one. And then... That's Speedwing. I think I know who that Speedwing is going on. I'm going to be using it on Soren, because Soren sometimes has issues with... Also, finally, I've been waiting to get Mia's hands on that Killing Edge for a long time. So let's go ahead and swap that Killing Edge onto Mia. And I think you have enough Wu Dao, so that's fine. But yeah, Mia with a Killing Edge, that is going to be really, really fun. Although Astra can't critical in this game, so not quite as fun as it would be in Path of Radiance. I guess I can convoy the Master Crown. There are a few people I could try using that on. And Rolf at this point I think is fine on items. Rolf and Shinnon at this point are both very, very similar. I actually did a test here, and I got both of them to 3rd tier with bonus experience, and their stats were roughly the exact same. The only difference was that Rolf had more luck and Shinnon had more resistance. But I think at this point, I might actually go for training Rolf, unless he ends up getting crazily screwed in 3rd tier, but let's just hope that doesn't happen. As for everyone else, Gatry's fine on weapons, Har is probably fine on weapons for now. How's Nephany doing? She can probably afford to use some more lances. In fact, well, I would like to trade Joffrey's Brave Lance onto her, but unfortunately, he is not accessible at this point. So I could give her another Killer Lance, though. I guess we can get rid of a couple of these and take an extra Javelin. Mia's fine. Alright, Physic. Who can use that? Mist can obviously use that, but Rice can also use that. In fact, I think it's probably better on him because he has a higher magic stat, which means more range. So let's give that to you. Then I suppose you can take the extra men stuff. Although maybe Soren should take the extra men stuff. Firstly, though, Soren's going to go ahead and use that speed win. Because like I said, his speed can have issues. Like all mages in this game, sadly. And yeah, you get the extra men stuff. And, yeah, Ike is going to actually go ahead and convoy that Wind Edge, because he's not going to need Wind Edges ever again. Mia, speaking of which, you need a fresh Wind Edge. Just realized that Mia's model there looks quite similar to her Swordmaster model from the last game. And I think I'm fine for items at this point. You know what? I have a ton of gold. I might as well forge something. Haven't really made much in the way of forged swords. Might as well forge the hit all the way up. Kind of like the idea of a grey blade. So let's do that, and let's use the coin. Alright, there is a nothing on there. Nothing! That's fine. I was bound to get a nothing sooner or later. I'm surprised that I haven't got a nothing until now. But anyway, what to call this? I mean, I was thinking of just calling it Greyblade after the character from Minish Cap, but that sounds a bit boring. I guess... So not only is this kind of fitting for a sword, if I can fit it, I think it's the name of a Dungeons & Dragons creature as well. I think it's something that Vex had to fight in Critical Role. And unfortunately, I can't fit it in Mia's inventory, so I have to send it to storage. I might as well forge something else, actually. And stockpiling some forged weapons in the convoy might not be a bad idea, although saving funds for later might also not be a bad idea for reasons. We are approaching the end of Part 3, and things get very different starting with Part 4. Let's just go ahead and get rid of that regular steel sword and give you Grey Render. Which is a lot better than the steel blade. Well, slightly better than the steel blade. Okay, so with that done, we're going to go ahead and, actually, I'm going to go ahead and manage skills first, because, let's see, now that Rolf has... I'm not going to keep Blossom on you for now. Let's get rid of Blossom. And, oh, dang it. I just realized I probably should have removed Celerity from Raisin in the last chapter, because Raisin is not with us for this chapter, so I have no access to Celerity. What I am going to do, though, is there was actually two reasons why I removed Paragon from Joffrey when I last had access to him. The first is because I wanted it on other characters, but the second is because if I kept Paragon on Joffrey, I wouldn't have access to it now. And what I'm going to do here is, where's Marsha? There she is. I'm going to go ahead and remove your Paragon. And I'm going to go ahead and remove your Paragon. And then I'm going to... Yeah, I can probably afford to put Paragon on some people at this point. I guess Gatry, maybe. And let's see who else uses it. Nefni could use it, but she's already a little up in terms of level. Mia would need to get rid of Adept, which I don't want. Which is a shame, because she actually has, But I guess Rolf, last time he had the opposite of Paragon. Let's give him... I can't fit Paragon and Blossom, but let's just give him Paragon, and you only have... Actually, you are going to get more capacity once I third tier you. I should probably manage skills more when I do that. But as for that, let's go ahead and preemptively remove Corrosion and cancel from Shinnon. I just realized, for the same reasons as back in 3.7, I don't want to have Corrosion on anyone before this chapter. Also, you might want to remove dangerous skills from the Grail Mercenaries in this chapter. Let's just say, but I won't go into that just yet. I suppose I could give you... Cancel's not really all that useful on you, because you don't really take counterattacks anyways, for the same reason that it's not that great on Leonardo. Cancel... Who's Cancel good on? Well, I mean, Cancel and Disarm are basically the same thing, but I guess Nefni can use Imbue, and that's not bad considering how crazily high her magic is. Although Mia could make good, although Mia's already fully stacked with skills. Yeah, let's go ahead and give Nephany Imbue for now. I should probably take Shade off of Ike now that I think about it, but I might keep it on him for the time being. Because now, it is time for me to use bonus experience to 3rd tier Rolf. So let's just straight up do it. Or I could use one on Master Crowns and save on a little bit of bonus. You know what, I might as well do that. I doubt there's many people that I want to use Master Crowns on. So I might as well do it this way. Okay, now that's defense cap, so you're definitely gaining magic on this level. So, this is what Rolf is... magic is cap too. So, Rolf did eventually become fairly decent, although he hasn't capped resistance like Shinnen. I could bonus experience Shinnen up to the same level, and their stats will be roughly the same. I said before, the only difference is Shinnen has more resistance, and Rolf has more luck, at least in this file. But what I'm going to do now is, I'm actually going to... Where is Titania? It's very hard to... I kind of... At this point, I have so many characters that I wish I had a search function on the menu. Where is Titania? There she is, she's very far down. I'm actually going to raise you to level 20, and then I'm going to Master Crown you. Now, I'm not going to be using Titania in this chapter, I don't think. But I may as well use the Master Crowns on someone, and having Titania in 3rd tier is going to help out because she's kind of forced for some of the Grail Mercenary chapters in Part 4. So now it is time. Let's go ahead and have Rolf give Blossom. I might think about who I use Blossom on later. You're going to take the Master Crown. Titania's also going to take the Master Crown, and we're going to both use ours, but also those Paragon Scrolls. Oh, also I have that Spirit Dust, which... who should I use that on? It's probably better used on Soren at this point. Just getting closer to capping stats, and thus capping other stats via bonus experience. Let's go ahead and use that. And get your staff back. Yeah, this is going to be quite a long base part, and it's not even going to end when I start the chapter, because there's some more things that I want to do. I want to show off a certain trick with the base. Okay, let's just go ahead and use the Master Crown and Rolf for now. It's time for another one of my favorite classes in this game. I like a lot of 3rd tier classes, but Marksmen in particular have a unique ability. Also, if you look very closely during this promotion animation, you might get a sneak preview of where we'll be fighting this chapter. And he still wears short shorts, but he gets a nice cape, and a shoulder pad, and giant shoe armor. Yeah, Rolf's 3rd tier design is not my favorite overall. I actually like Shinnen's 3rd tier design better. But Rolf is a marksman now, and being a marksman comes with a few benefits. The first is Deadeye, which is so much better than it is in Path of Radiance. Deadeye was awful in that game, but now it does triple damage, and it also puts the enemy to sleep, but that won't matter because they'll be dead. Still doesn't have enough capacity for Blossom plus Paragon though, which is a shame. But Marksmen have insane skill. Also, Marksmen have the ability to shoot any bow besides crossbows at 3 range at a cost of 30 less accuracy, which in practice doesn't really matter because they have such a high hit rate that they'll be hitting anyway even with that. So at this point, longbows become kind of pointless, because Marksmen can essentially turn any bow they want into a longbow. So now I guess I can 3rd tier Titania. And now I can finally talk about what the 3rd tier naming scheme is on Paladins. Because this is actually a class that's, that at the time of Radiant Dawn hadn't appeared in the series for a really, really long time. Even though it's a very different... Well, I mean, in a lot of ways it is a pretty similar class to how it was in its original appearance. Titania is now... Also a horse looks like a rhinoceros. A Gold Knight. Yep, the class from Gaiden returns in this game. Gold Knight is the promotion of sword and axe paladins, and it can use both swords and axes. Which, I don't know, gaining swords is not really the best. I kind of prefer Path of Radiance where you could choose your weapon type on Paladins, but then again, in that game, everyone just chose axes because axes are amazing in Tellius, so on the other hand, I kind of like that you don't get a choice. But yeah, Gold Knights. Bow and Lance Paladins promote to Silver Knight, which is actually a new class. It was Seth's title in Sacred Stones, but it wasn't actually his class. So yeah, Silver Knight is new, Gold Knight is from Gaiden, and back then it was the 3rd tier of Paladins as well, so it actually kind of makes sense for Gold Knight to return in this capacity. Don't think Gold Knights could use axes in Gaiden, though. In fact, nothing in Gaiden could use axes, if I'm remembering right. So Soul is probably one of the best mastery skills in this game, because like almost all of them, it does triple damage, so the enemy instantly dies, but in this case, you also restore HP equal to the damage dealt, so it's more like enemy instantly dies and you fully heal yourself. Unless the enemy was very badly weakened. So, as you can see there, Titania's strength is already almost capped. The downside of 3rd tier Paladins is they're actually not that good in terms of caps. I like this, I've said this many times, because it nerfs them since Path of Radiance, but it does mean that they aren't really the best. But Titania is actually still pretty useful, even with these drawbacks. So, now, let's see, is there any... can't really assign much to Rolf. Cancel would be great on Mia, but I kind of like Daunt. Although Daunt might make things a little annoying fighting, kind of spoiled something there, but Daunt might make things a little annoying later. You know what? Just because Daunt will be banned for me in a few chapters, I'm going to give you Cancel. Which was also probably going to be banned for me in a few chapters, because Cancel plus Astra equals you are most likely not going to attack back, but still. That plus Vantage as well. I mean, I know that Vantage is not guaranteed in this game, but Vantage Astra Cancel is still pretty hilarious. So I think that's everything that I want to do for now. Actually, no, wait. You know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to award a little bit of experience to Ranulf. He kind of deserves it at this point. So I'm going to get him to level 30. And he's guaranteed to get better stats on average by bonus experience than through regular leveling. The problem with bonus experience on Lagoos is that 9 times out of 10, they'll gain HP and luck, because those are their highest growths by far. Since those are the only stats that don't double on transformation, it's understandable that those are the higher growths, but still. That actually means his skill is actually capped, nice. So, because Ranulf is now level 30, his capacity is increased, and yeah, Lagoos have drastically more capacity than Bjork, even 3rd tiers. And now that he's level 30 or above, I can finally put one of the Satori Signs to good use. I guess I'll use the one that he got most recently. So, he just learned the Rend skill. It has a very cool icon, in my opinion. So, multiplies your strength by 5. Oh yeah, and it also stuns the enemy, but it's not like that matters, because they'll be dead. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen the Rend animation. I usually don't bonus experience Ranulf up, so this chapter should be interesting. In fact, since Ranulf is a bit stronger here, maybe he should take, I don't have an extra Libby Grass. I just realized I could arm scroll Soren's Thunder up to let him use Thoron, but yeah, don't think it's really all that necessary. So now I'm finished with what I want to do. Let's go. But since we already fought a chapter there, the chances of the game giving us a chapter there again is very low. Oh yes, obviously. He's commanding 4 of the strongest armies on the continent now. So, I said in Ike's bio that he gets Ragnall a lot earlier than he did in Path of Radiance, and this is the reason why Ike never needs Wind Edges again, because he has something infinitely better. An infinite use Wind Edge that's much, much stronger. This line is actually pretty hilarious though. So, this sword was used by Emperor Saltina, the first apostle of Bednion, back in the early days of the Empire. Wrong! Amazing. Everything you just said, or at least most of it, was wrong. So, this is kind of an amusing thing. So let me just quickly go over this. So, during the time of Altina, Bednion was still a monarchy, so Altina was not an empress and Bednion was not an empire. Secondly, Altina herself was not an apostle. Bednion's first apostle was her granddaughter. So, for the Empress of Bednion, Sanaki sure doesn't know the history of her own country. I'm not sure if this is intentional or just a writing mistake, because Leth's B support with Jill in Path of Radiance, and that's the other reason why I wanted to show that in that game, just to show the real history of Bednion. Leth's B support with Jill in Path of Radiance actually explains the real history. But it might actually be intentional, because Sanaki is only 13, and also it's likely the Senators prevented her from learning a lot of information about her own country. And it's also kind of a nice detail knowing that Leth, a Galleon, and a Laguz actually knows more about Bednion's history than its Empress does. But anyway. So, Altina used 2 swords, which is incredibly cool. The other one was a Londice. And so, we received the Ragnar. It's so important that it has a "the" in front of its name. Yeah, that's a huge army. You can see Bednion, Crimea, and Gallia's armies. So we're marching on Flagare, right? Actually wrong. Remember how I said that there's one country that didn't sign up to this agreement? Unfortunately, Dayan is still under the Senate's thumb. I said the Senate still had tricks up their sleeves. Yeah, this makes no sense. Unfortunately, if we try and move on Bednion without getting Dayan out of the way, we're gonna get hit from behind. And it'd be good to finally sort out this whole conspiracy with Dayan. And yes, this is indeed the map that you think it is, and you're probably horrified in seeing it again. We're here at the Riven Bridge, or rather it's not the Riven Bridge anymore because localization inconsistencies. It's now referred to by its Japanese name, Oribus Bridge. And obviously the Senate is pulling the strings behind the scenes. Well, they're not the Senators, they won't be killing the messengers, hopefully. So, no Scrimmier this time. That sounds like Crom in the trailer for Smash. Before we begin this chapter, I need to show something. We have Sigoon and Tanith on our side here. They just joined us, so I'll go over them here. Here's Sigoon. Sigoon was one of those characters in the previous game who seemed recruitable but wasn't. Now she finally is, and was she worth the wait? Kind of. I find Sigoon average in this game. Her base stats are decent enough to make her a solid filler option, especially since she's also an extra flyer, which are always helpful to have around. But they're still not that high, and her growths are pretty weird, especially that very low speed growth. Her only good growths being in skill, luck, and resistance, 3 of the least important stats in the game, is also a bit of a problem. And not being playable in Path of Radiance hurts her here as it means she can't get transfers, unlike the character that she joins alongside. Still, I find Sigoon is a character who's a lot better in the English version than they are in the Japanese version. Because you can promote second tiers with bonus experience in the English version, Sigoon's starting level essentially makes her a free 3rd tier. And even a mediocre 3rd tier flyer is still a 3rd tier flyer. She's actually really useful in an upcoming chapter because of this. In the Japanese version though, you have to use one of your very limited Master Crowns in order to 3rd tier her, which makes 3rd tiering her a lot less likely. Overall, she's a solid filler option, especially in the English version where you can go back to the base and immediately 3rd tier her at a very low cost of bonus experience. But in terms of primary flyers, there are better options. And here is Tanith. Tanith is very similar to Sigoon, except she joins 3 levels lower with base stats that aren't that much lower and in fact are even higher in some stats. Better growths in the relevant areas, and access to transfer bonuses. So you can tell which of the 2 I prefer. Tanith also has Earth Affinity, which is amazing as always, though Sigoon's Water Affinity is also decent. Other than that, there's really not that much else to say about Tanith. She's very similar to Segoon in that she fulfills the role of a filler unit flyer. Except she'll probably end up better at the cost of taking more bonus experience to 3rd tier. Unfortunately, Tanith lost her reinforcement skill in this game. It was actually a pretty fun skill in Path of Radiance, so it's a shame it's gone. Something she hasn't lost though is she can still do the triangle attack, and now that Segoon is playable, you can actually use any combination of Marsha, Tanith, Segoon, and Delincia to do the triangle attack. It's still very much awesome but impractical, but it exists, so I felt the need to point it out. One other thing that I feel the need to point out, even though this has no bearing on gameplay whatsoever, but I personally find Tanith's 3rd tier outfit to be the coolest looking 3rd tier outfit in the entire game. In fact, I am going to be 3rd tiering Tanith just to show you how cool she looks. Now, while I'm here, I might as well show a little trick you can do. Anytime that characters join you on the preparation screen, you can return to base, and from there... Are they at the bottom of the list? No, they're right here. From there, you can use bonus experience on them. So, you can actually 3rd tier these two right now if you really want to. And, oh, that's going to cost me a lot of bonus experience, but I really want to show what Tanith looks like in 3rd tier because it's the coolest thing ever. You know what? Let's do this. This is much less efficient than leveling up normally, but I don't care. I'm mostly doing this just to show how she looks. Because she has my favorite 3rd tier outfit in the entire game. I'd appreciate a little bit more strength. Yeah, she's already a lot stronger than Segoon. And here we go. She is forced this chapter, so having an extra 3rd tier will certainly help. Though Segoon is extremely cheap to 3rd tier, and it's probably a good idea to do that as well. In fact, having the two as strong as possible for this chapter really helps, because for some reason it's a game over if they die. Actually, wait, I think I know the reason, but I'll explain that in the next part. So, the stat screen's going to cover it up, but this is 3rd tier Tanith, in my opinion the coolest looking 3rd tier in the game. Well, one of them at least. So she is now a Seraph Knight. But let me just see if I can show what she looks like here, within that model. Seriously, 3rd tier Tanith is so cool. But I feel like that Storm Sword's actually better served on... Sorry for the mood whiplash, but I'm going to actually swap that over to Mia. You're going to take a regular Wind Edge. And that Spear will be better served on Nephany. So Nephany's going to go ahead and take that and swap out the Javelin. And Tanith's going to go ahead and just take a couple of... yeah, she needs a Javelin. Might as well take a stronger sword. And that's probably fine. So here are Tanith's 3rd tier stats. They're pretty solid all round, and by 3rd tier standards, they're actually kind of average all round. But now let's go back to the preparation screen. And seriously, look how cool Tanith looks in 3rd tier. I can't get over this. I've been looking forward to showing this for a long time. But now that's done, it's time to prepare to advance down the Bridge of Pitfalls for the 2nd time. This time in reverse.